see a demonstration on the Hoyer lift. The biggest thing to think about with the Hoyer lift is you need to be trained to use it, and you need to read your directions and know your facility's policy for utilizing the Hoyer lift and who's able to do that, and what the instructions for the lift itself are going to be. So the lift that you're going to see here in the lab does come with a set of instructions on there. So as we go through the demo today, we're going to be step by step reading through the instructions and walking you through the process as we do that. One of the first things we do before any procedure, which is no different with this, is introduce ourselves, do our hand hygiene, explain the procedure to the patient. So I'm going to do that as we go through and do the step-by-step checklist.
So as I'm reading the step-by-step checklist, the first thing is, like Tiffany said, it must be completed with 2 people who are familiar with the operational instructions of the equipment. It again reiterates the importance of telling the patient what you're going to do and also performing hand hygiene.
So I'm going to start and do that.
And then you want to position the patient in the center of the bed and raise the bed to a hip level.
So hi, Mr. Jones. My name is Tiffany. I'm going to be your nurse today. We're going to be getting you up out of bed into the chair. We're not going to actually put the patient in the chair for this, but just explaining to our patient what we're doing. So just because it's a little bit difficult for you to do that on your own, we're going to help you. So we're going to make sure our patient is centered to the bed, and then we're going to move the bed up to a good working position for us. So,
And I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Joe. I'm just going to be helping Tiffany get you out right now.
yes.
Name and
Because
date of
Joe and
birth.
I are a little bit different heights, we're going to get the bed kind of in the middle.
Name and date of birth.
Do you mind verifying your name and date of birth for me? So he tells me it's Bob Jones, 79XX. So we compare that against our order, everything matches. Okay. So we have the bed at about hip height.
The bed is good. So then you want to roll the patient to the side to place the sling with the smooth side up underneath the patient.
Okay.
The top of the sling should be slightly above the patient's head, and the bottom edge should be a few inches above the back of the patient's knees. Ensure that the patient is centered on the sling.
Okay. So we're just going to get the sling underneath you, so we're going to be doing a little bit of rolling back and forth. Just to give you a heads up.
You're going to keep him as covered as possible.
So you'll note that your slings may come in different sizes, so make sure that you are looking at that before you select the appropriate sling for your patient. This sling does have a guide based on your patient's, the size of the sling, and then it will tell you what color the binding of it is. So just being aware of that so that we have an appropriate sling for our patient that's going to actually support our patient safely. So we're going to get the sling situated. And kind of, if you remember with your occupied bed making, we tend to kind of roll a lot of our materials, even with our slings, so that we can eliminate rolling back and forth 1,000 times for our patients. So you'll notice that we're doing the same type of technique that we did for our bed making. Okay, Mr. Jones, I'm going to roll you towards Joe here. And so remember, the bottom is going to be just above their knees. Okay, you can go ahead and roll back. And then you're going to roll towards me. And if they can help you, they can reach across and grab the side. Just make sure you have your rails up for them safely, but that you're not killing your back. So you may need to put a rail down depending what side you're on, but make sure it goes back up.
And he looks centered on the sling, so that's good. Next, place the lift under the bed frame with the legs of the base open and unlocked. The base is always to remain open and unlocked throughout the transfer process.
So the legs of your base are these here, and that's what you're going to slide underneath your patient's bed. Because I'm standing on this side, I can take this rail down, but if I wasn't, this rail would need to be up.
then lower the trapeze slowly to avoid injury to the patient, and place the color-coded sling straps into the lift hooks.
First, which one's the power button?
So to turn the power of the Hoyer lift on, it's this button here. And again, this model might vary depending where you work. So just know your institution's equipment. So to turn it on, you're gonna kind of push, and then it has little knobs for instruction to turn. And then to move it up and down, there's this little remote controller that's hanging on here. You're gonna do either up or down based on this. So we're gonna slowly lower it to the level of our patient. You're not gonna rest it on your patient, but just low enough that you can start to connect your loops.
And when we connect the loops, the top 2 straps have to be the same color, and the bottom 2 straps have to be the same color.
So as you can see, they have 3 different colors on this type here. So you have blue, green, and purple. So you wanna make sure that whatever ones you're attaching all match.
Do they have to match top and bottom?
Just the top has to be the same and the bottom has to be the same.
Thank you.
What color loops you use depends on which position you want your patient in when you lift them up. Okay.
So we've lowered the lift. So we both have attached the purple on the top. Now we're gonna both do purple on the bottom.
And then once that's in place, you want to ask the patient to place his or her hands across her chest or abdomen, if they're able to do so. And then press the up button to raise the patient above the bed enough for clearance. If you have to lower the bed to do this, you can do so.
One thing to keep in mind before you begin to move your patients, though, if they're attached to any lines or oxygen, anything attached to them, you wanna make sure those are secured, or making sure they're not gonna pull out as you're moving your patient, because that could end badly. So I'm gonna start to bring the patient up, and again, like I said, we're not gonna actually move the patient, we're just gonna show you the process of lifting. I'll pull the patient out a little bit just to show you how this process works with the lift itself, but then we will put the patient right back to bed. So, and also let your patient know they're gonna start to go up now. It's a little bit of a scary procedure. So when you're at the point that you're gonna start lifting them out of the bed, do give them that heads up and let them know.
And then while Tiffany's working the controls as the second person, I'm just kind of the spotter to make sure that none of their extremities are being caught in everything, that they're still comfortable. Kind of keep a hand on the sling so I have a hand on the patient at all times. And then when the patient has cleared the bed surface, lock the red button and carefully swing the lower extremities off the bed.
Okay, so we've locked. And then at this point, again, you're gonna want that second person in case the sling starts wiggling around a lot, but you're gonna secure your patient as best you can. You're gonna move the legs out.
And I'm just going to come around so I can help on this side.
And then at that point, you would be able to help assist your patient to the chair or wherever your destination was once they were in the lift.
And to do that, you would carefully maneuver the base of the lift towards the chair with the patient facing the lift operator. Once the patient is positioned over the chair, have the assistant stand behind the chair and firmly grasp handles on the back of the sling to guide the patient to the chair. At that point, you would unlock the red button, then slowly lower the patient onto the chair while the assistant holds the sling handles. You would then remove the sling straps from the lift, ensure patient safety, and perform hand hygiene.
So we're gonna go back to bed, Mr. Jones. And also keep an eye on their neck too. Theoretically, it should be supported, but just make sure that their neck isn't tipping back and being very uncomfortable as well. Alright, we're gonna get you back in bed, okay? So, come on. quite do what we tell them to do, so we have to help them a little.
Do those bars ever hit a patient and hurt them?
It could if you do not perform it safely. So same thing, you want to always make sure these bars are not flying erratically and that your patient is not directly underneath them. Another thing to be very aware of are these bars that move underneath the bed too. You don't want to trip on them, so you really have to keep safety with everything we do, but safety is the paramount with this because there's lots of things that people could hit their head on or trip on. You have to be very, very careful. So I'm going to slowly move this out, but just always have an awareness of where this is. So then we're just going to get this harness out from underneath you, okay?
So I'm gonna roll towards me again.
Put this up so we can grab onto this. And give your pillow back and your call back. Is there anything else I can get for you today? If they say no, make sure your bed is down, locked, your two side rails up, and of course before we leave the room, we're gonna wash our hands. Have a nice day.